Hey everybody, I'm back, Adam the Bull, back in Cleveland. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. Am I freezing up here? What's happening? Camera's freezing up for a couple seconds. Maybe it didn't. I don't know what's going on. I know what's happening in Cleveland. It was an interesting weekend that got off to a great start, but ended with a big downer. We'll start with the Browns. We'll get to the Guardians moving on in the playoffs. That's the good news. We'll get to it all. I promised you a Monday bullpen as I flew back from New Jersey this morning, and I'm finally able to get to it. Recording this Monday afternoon, first afternoon podcast ever, starting at 2:56 p.m. So probably be able to start watching this by the time I've recorded it all and put the bells and whistles in, probably around 4 o'clock or so. So anyway, lot to get to today. Of course, today's edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull is brought to you by Built Bar. Built Bar is a protein bar that apparently tastes like candy. That's what I'm hearing. I love it. It's also brought to you by Bet Online. Yes, indeed. Bet Online has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Bet Online, where the game starts. A lot to get to. All right, let's begin right with the bad news, and that's what happened yesterday. The Browns and the Chargers in Los Angeles. Chargers win by a final of 30-28. A game, I believe I predicted the Browns to win 31-30. It was all there. Unfortunately, Cade York, the kicker they drafted in the fourth round, missed 2 field goal attempts, including a game-winning opportunity at the end. Listen, as much as I don't love the idea of drafting a kicker high, and I've made that pretty clear, I still think Cade York's a good kicker. I know he had a bad day yesterday. I know he's missed a couple of extra points. But I'm not crying victory laps here. But Cade York's got to make these kicks. He's got to make these kicks. He's got to be able to kick in Cleveland. Weather wasn't crazy yesterday. And the final kick, he missed the 2 field goals. He missed a field goal towards the end of the first half, which was,
what do you want
one that
to
he's got to make.
beautify?
That one wasn't even that long a kick. And then he missed the field goal, obviously, at the end of the game, which was a 54-yarder, and the Browns lose 30-28. And people are, I'm thinking about this. It's so funny because for so many years, I was such a guy who would come on the radio on Monday and just crush the Browns. And for some reason, while everybody else has been angry the last 2 weeks, deservedly so, I haven't been as angry. And I'm trying to figure out why. And I think it's because, especially this game against what I think is a really good Charger team, I guess I'm waiting. I don't believe it's because Deshaun Watson is not here. However, what is confusing is that Jacoby Brissett's playing okay. Now, he threw a terrible pick at the end of the game, and he's done that 3 times. 3 times he's thrown big picks at the end of games, and you can't have that. I mean, we can't have this. And so he's not playing well enough. And I think about how the offense, though, as in general, has been great. Right? The offense has been really good. The running game, again, magnificent. 31 carries, 213 yards, 3 touchdowns. In our headlines last week on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, I had Nick Chubb with 169 yards and 3 touchdowns. And man, I thought he was going to get it. Of course, he wasn't, on the field there at the end. And again, they ran once with Kareem Hunt, and then they, couldn't get any closer to field goal range. And we could go over the play calling all you want, but let me tell you something. In the end, they once again, the Browns are losing games because of special teams and defense. Yes, Jacoby Brissett threw a big pick. That's on him. We give him credit when he plays pretty well. And again, I thought for the crux of the game, he did a pretty good job. But the one thing you thought you could rely on when it came to Jacoby Brissett was that he doesn't make the critical error. And he's done that a number of times. And this game in particular, at least the last 2 games where he made that late error, you could say, well, he got them the lead. The defense blew it. He's got to find a way. In this game, it was a back-and-forth slugfest all game until the fourth quarter, which was quite odd. I mean, it was a 28-27 game after 3. And I thought this game might get into the 40s, and then it kind of stalled out in the fourth quarter. I thought the Browns actually did a pretty good job of limiting Justin Herbert. I know Mike Williams had a big game, but nobody else really did much of anything in the air. The Chargers, who don't normally run a ton, had a monster game on the ground. They had even more yards on the ground than the Browns did. They were 34 of 238. I mean, neither team could stop the run. The Chargers averaged 7 yards per carry. The Browns averaged 6.9 yards per carry. Austin Eckler, who had gotten off to a slow start this season, had 173 yards on 16 carries. He had 4 more catches. So in total, 20 touches for 199 yards for Eckler. Nick Chubb in total, 17 touches because he had no catches for 134 yards, 2 touchdowns. Eckler had 2 touchdowns as well. So the running game, great for both teams. The passing game, okay for both teams. The difference in the end was critical mistakes in this game. The Jacoby Brissett pick, the 2 Cade York missed field goals, and missed opportunities. The defense, and by the way, I don't want to hear about this. What a difference Anthony Walker makes. And I know they go trade for Deion Jones from the Falcons, who had a magnificent rookie campaign. He was a Pro Bowler. And everybody loved him early. He's been up and down since. He's certainly better than what they have and should help. But in the end, I think you can make a strong case here that you can't. Our expectations were so high when the Browns got Deshaun Watson. And because of that, we don't want to, people don't want to hear about injuries or guys missing time or excuses. Browns fans are sick of being patient, and I understand that. The reality is when Deshaun Watson got suspended, the Browns are going to have to be patient a little longer. Most of us were realistic about the Browns' chances of making the playoffs when they had Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. And even when Jacoby Brissett's had good games, he is still a limited player at the position. Limits that will be gone when Deshaun Watson comes in. Now, it's certainly disappointing that the Browns are 2-3. It's certainly disappointing as the way they got to 2-3. In all 3 of their losses, they could have won. Now, you could argue in both of their wins, they could have lost, certainly against Carolina when they blew a big lead. But I guess, I guess my feeling is they're still only 1 game behind Baltimore. None of the teams in this division are playing great. Pittsburgh's awful. And then, and Cincinnati and Baltimore have not played great. Chris Collinsworth and Mike Tirico last night on the broadcast saying, what a great game. I didn't think it was a great game. I didn't think either quarterback played particularly well. I didn't think either defense was particularly impressive. So with all the Browns struggles, and yes, their defense has been a huge disappointment. Myles Garrett comes back. Jadeveon Clowney comes back. Neither of those guys made a big impact in the game. Especially Myles Garrett, and I don't know where he's at. There was a video going around of him not hustling on a play. I don't want to make too big a deal of one play, but if you're we shouldn't see any plays where Myles Garrett's not going 100%. And we're hearing a little too much talking. I did see where Clowney said, hey, we've been terrible. And Martin Emerson had some good comments today. But we need the Browns to do this on the field. And the Browns' defense has been the biggest disappointment, one of the most disappointing units in all of the NFL. But again, I still think the Browns have the right coach. Kevin Stefanski, like most, is flawed. I think they're going to need to make at some point changes to the coaching staff. Right now, I don't see how, and I'm not saying, I don't even think they should fire either one of them necessarily right now. You can't fire both. But the way the Browns are playing at the moment, it's hard for me to believe that Joe Woods and Mike Prefer will be back next year. They're both doing a pretty bad job. Mike Prefer has been awful. The Browns special teams have been horrendous since he's been here. I have no idea how this guy keeps his job. Joe Woods, you thought he'd turned the corner, but this defense, they can't stop the run. What? It's just Anthony Walker? Anthony Walker's just a guy. He's gone. They can't stop the run. I know Eckler's good, but they hadn't been running the ball well, the Chargers, before this, and they killed the Browns. The week before, the Falcons had nobody, and they killed the Browns. You can't tell me it's just Anthony Walker. That's ridiculous. This is a total failure across the board on the defense. It's a failure by Joe Woods. It's a failure by the players. There's a lot of guys on this defense who have gotten paid a good amount of money. Denzel Ward, Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney, at least on a yearly basis. There's other guys too. John Johnson. There's guys who are high draft picks like JOK, like Martin Emerson, like Greg Newsome, Grant Delpit. And these guys are flat out not getting it done. I'm not giving anybody credit on the defense. I do think the secondary has played a little better in the last 2 weeks. And Justin Herbert didn't dominate this game like he has so many other times. I mean, to hold Justin Herbert to 22 of 34, 228 yards, 1 touchdown, that's overall pretty good. But I'm grading you as a unit. And the secondary was terrible early. The front's been terrible lately. The bottom line is, through 5 games, the defense has been awful. And while I don't know if it makes sense to fire Joe Woods right now, I don't know how Joe Woods or Mike Prefer can keep their jobs much longer. Kevin Stefanski and the offense are getting it done. It's the 5th most efficient offense in the NFL. You look at, in terms of points scored, I'll give you the analytics with the 5th most efficient offense. In terms of points scored, the Browns have scored 133 points. The only teams with more points in the AFC are the Bills and the Ravens. Now the Chiefs, and the Chiefs will go over it today because they're playing tonight, unless they score less than 4 points, which is unlikely. So they'll probably be 4th in the AFC in points scored. The offense is not the problem here. Yes, ultimately, Jacoby Brissett's made some key errors in big spots, and thankfully, he's not their long-term answer. But the offense is doing their job for the most part. It's the defense that has been a rotten failure for the Browns this season. Only the Dolphins and the Chargers and the Steelers have allowed more points than the Browns defensively. The Raiders, if the Raiders give up more than 25 and the Chiefs give up more than 29, they'll pass the Browns too. But the Browns are near the bottom of the AFC in terms of scoring defense, and that's completely unacceptable. By the way, where all those people told me the Steelers' defense was good, their defense stinks, and their offense is probably the worst in the league, along with Denver and Indianapolis. So, but the bottom line is, if they fire Joe Woods, that'd be fine. I don't think it's going to happen. I think most likely at the end of the year, Woods is going to be gone. Maybe you'll fire Woods at the bye week. I think Mike Prefer has got to be gone by the latest the end of this year. But this is not just about the coaches. The players are failing to do their job. The Browns have invested a lot of money on their defense. They've invested a lot of high draft capital on their defense, and they are letting this team down. We were all convinced that the Browns would have a top 5 defense. They're not even close. Not even close. And they are the Browns are losing this year, not because of Kevin Stefanski, not because of Jacoby Brissett, certainly not because of the running game or the lack of depth at wide receiver. They're losing mostly because of the defense and the special teams. And coaches get some blame and players get some blame. I do think that the defense in particular is so passive, it's painful to watch. It really is. I'm going to leave the Browns there. That's the bad news. We're going to get to the good news, and that's a great weekend for the Guardians. That's coming up next, right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull. BetOnline.net, your number one source for football betting info this season. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on every game you can find. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to betonline.net to use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Little light green cup today. Am I spilling? Okay, enough of this Browns depressing stuff. Let's get to the good news. The Cleveland Guardians had a great weekend. Of course, I was away this weekend. Many of you know. It was my nephew Benjamin Katz's bar mitzvah. My family and I had a really nice time. Benjamin is my wife's brother's son. And for those who don't know, it's a religious ceremony for 13-year-old Jewish boys and girls. You become a man or a woman, in the eyes of, I don't know. I'm not very religious, but I like the ceremony of it. And my nephew did a great job. He did a TED Talk for his, for those who don't know, at a bar mitzvah, you read from the Torah, and then you also give like a kind of a speech. And he did an amazing job. He basically did a TED Talk, and it was very well done. He asked me to participate and be a volunteer in it, but he was the star of the show, and he was tremendous. So I'm very proud of him. And then there was a big party, and there was an after party. It was a whole crazy busy weekend. It was beautiful, beautiful event. The only negative was it was hard for me to watch the Guardians games this weekend because, I was out and about quite a bit. Now, I was able to watch Friday night, but the Saturday game was going on as the party was happening. So the party started maybe 10 minutes after the game started. So I'm in this catering hall. There's like 300 people. The party's 5 hours. And, and I'm sitting at the table, and I got my phone there, and I'm trying to watch it a little bit, and it was just crazy. And obviously the game itself was nuts, as, we don't see these long extra inning games very often anymore because of the rule with the runner on second. But of course that rule is gone for the playoffs. But what an exciting win. Guardians in 15 innings get the Oscar Gonzalez walk-off on Saturday after they won a nail-biter on Friday when Clase shuts the door after Tampa gets a run in the sixth, and then in the bottom of the sixth, Jose hits the home run. Now, the Guardians didn't do a ton of hitting. Obviously, 3 runs in 24 innings and only 13 hits. The good news is the pitching was great by the top 2 starters and the bullpen. The bullpen was fantastic. Bieber gave up 1 run. McKenzie gave up no runs. Just sensational. Now you got to play the Yankees, and we'll talk a lot more about that on Tuesday's podcast. But what the energy from Progressive Field. Again, I didn't get the feel of it much on Saturday because I just couldn't. But when I went back and rewatched it, and initially saw the highlights and then went back and rewatched it. I mean, the energy from the crowd and great job by a lot of fans staying to the end. I mean, obviously some people left, but man, to battle through the 15 innings. And some people have said to me, well, we got to hit more against the Yankees. So one guy said to me, who's a big Yankee fan, because of course, when the Guardians clinch on Saturday, I start going wild and I'm cursing out the Yankees. And I know a lot of Yankee fans, and I feel bad. I do feel bad for my nephew, my other nephew, Ian, who I saw this weekend too. He's my sister's son, and he's a big Yankee fan. He's a great kid, and he's from New York. So, you can understand why he would root for the Yankees. And he and his dad, they're the only Yankee fans that don't drive me crazy. So I'll feel a little bad for them, but not enough, because I still talk trash to him. I sent him a text right away. My text, if you didn't see it, was, "Kid, I love you, but the Yankees are going to get their ass kicked by the Guardians." And I hope that turns out to be true. I felt great about the Guardians in the first round, and I love where they're at now. Got to pick it up with the bats, certainly a little bit. You missed some opportunities. Obviously, they had the bases loaded, nobody out earlier in the game in game 2, and Jose strikes out, and then you hit into the double play. And you can't miss those opportunities. The Yankees obviously have a better lineup than the Rays do, and the Rays were struggling down the stretch. Unlike in the first round, the Yankees will have home field advantage in the best of five. And remember, early in the year when Miles Straw got into it with the crowd at Yankee Stadium, I know when I was in New York this weekend, I had a lot of people I know that are Yankee fans that remember that, and that's going to be, they're going to be fired up. It's going to be their crowd in those first two games, and you don't have Bieber going game one. However, despite all of that, I still love the Guardians in this series. I said I was going to wait till tomorrow and talk about it, but I don't know that I can say much more about Friday and Saturday. The Guardians scored 3 runs. They won 2 games. They're going to have to hit better if they want to beat the Yankees, but that's pretty obvious. I think they will. I don't think while the Yankees pitching is good, and I've heard a lot of people say Yankees pitching stinks. I might have even said that earlier in the year. Their pitching is good. Their starting pitching is good. Now, the big advantage that the Guardians have over the Yankees is their bullpen. If I'm the Yankees, I'm very nervous about my bullpen. In fact, a player we know well here, Aroldis Chapman, was left off the Yankee playoff roster. I don't know if it's going to change for this round, but the rosters have to be set by tomorrow morning. But that's how bad it's been for him. He's not the same pitcher. They don't really have a reliable closer, where the Guardians' bullpen has just been lights out. So the good news is that the Guardians have the ability, as much as any team in baseball, to work counts, to not strike out, and to put the ball in play. And what that will do is run up some pitch counts on Cole, on Cortez, on Severino. Those are the guys pitching the first 3 games of the series. And if they do that, then that's going to give the Guardians a great chance to get to the bullpen. And if it becomes a battle of the bullpens, well, we know who has an advantage there. It is the Guardians. Let me give you, for those who haven't seen it yet, just want to look it up just to make sure I don't make a mistake here. But the pitching matchups, in game 1, it's going to be Quantrill against Cole. In game 2, it's going to be Bieber against Cortez. And in game 3, it's going to be McKenzie against Severino, I believe. Now I got to double check those. Now that I just said it, yeah. Game 1, Quantrill and Cole, and that's tomorrow. Game 2 is Thursday. It is Bieber and Cortez, and then game 3 is Saturday. McKenzie, and I believe it's supposed to be Severino. Yeah. Unlike in the first round, the Guardians will get good game times here. No afternoon games, because they're playing the Yankees, obviously. Be bitter about it if you want. You can't get hung up on this nonsense. People can't get mad the Guardians had a bad game time when they're playing the Rays. Neither team is huge nationally. You can't get hung up on those things. Now you get to move on. Good. It's at night because it's the Yankees. Fine. It helped you. It's fine. Believe it or not, Cal Quantrill has a better ERA than Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole is a guy who obviously has dominant stuff, can strike out a ton of hitters, but also gives up a ton of home runs. And the Yankees, I don't know I haven't seen the line. I mean, I know the Yankees are favored in the series, and I would imagine they'll be a pretty significant favorite in the first game with Garrett Cole at home. Quantrill, we know, has been great at home, but he's their third starter, and Garrett Cole's the Yankees' number 1 starter. So the Yankees have all the pressure in this game. I felt that against the Rays. I feel it against here. And every round, the other team is going to have more pressure than the Guardians, pretty much no matter who they play. Nobody expected, a lot of people, I shouldn't say nobody expected the Guardians to beat the Rays. A lot of people didn't. Nobody's expected, there's nobody outside of Cleveland, or not many people outside of Cleveland that are going to pick the Guardians to beat the Yankees. But I am very confident. I picked them to win in the first round. I did have some nervousness because of the long losing streak they've had in the postseason. And clearly this team didn't worry about it. They played so many high-stress innings. They made great plays defensively. We saw Ramirez and everything they did in that second game. The defense, sensational. We know what this team can do in terms of grinding out at bats, playing the field, running the bases. These things are all going to be advantages that they will have against the Yankees. Yes, in terms of starting rotation, it's close. In terms of top 4 starters, it's very close. I think they're pretty even, the two teams. But I think it's pretty even in terms of the lineup. Obviously, They got Aaron Judge, who's having an all-world season, and the Guardians have to be very careful with him. But in terms of manager, the Guardians have a big edge. In terms of bullpen, the Guardians have a big edge. And that's ultimately why I think the Guardians are going to, believe it or not, I got them winning this series in 4 games. Guardians in 4. And this first game is very interesting because if the Yankees lose at home, where they have their ace going up against the Guardians' number 3 starter, watch out, because then that becomes a huge edge in the Guardians' favor in games 2 and 3. Because your other guy's not as much experience. Severino spent a lot of time injured, although McKenzie obviously does not have a lot of. It's not like the Guardians are loaded with guys with experience in the postseason. But if the Yankees don't win with their ace on the mound at home against the 3rd starter, the guy who's got the most playoff experience of any of these starting pitchers, then it spins to a big advantage. So 7:37 tomorrow, first game. Most of us don't have to worry about being at work at that time, and so it's a great spot for the Guardians to be in. And I was so excited. I was like a lunatic at the bar mitzvah Saturday, checking the score, checking the game. I put it on the radio for a minute when I stepped outside to listen to Tom Hamilton for a second, and then hearing that final call of the Oscar Gonzalez walk-off with Tom Hamilton, that was beautiful. It's good to see the Guardians win their first playoff series since the American League Championship Series in 2016. I feel great about this team, and I believe it's just the start. Take a quick break, come back, some final thoughts, and I'll look ahead to getting back on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show tomorrow as well, right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull. Now on to Sleeper. Sleeper, the fastest growing fantasy platform today. With the NFL season kicking off, Sleeper is climbing the charts with over 4 million plus users. In addition, they have 22 new features, including over-unders integrated into fantasy. The first sports contest game built into the fantasy experience. Not only can you enter a contest via over-under itself, but you can also do so through your Fantasy League's matchup screen. It's super simple. First, in any sport, choose up to two or more players that you like and pick the over-under. For example, rushing yards in football, number of points in basketball, hoops coming right around the corner soon. Then choose the amount of money you want to enter into the contest. If you pick correctly, you can win anywhere from 2 to over 20 times the money you put in. Another reason I'm excited, Over-Under and Sleepers, that's the only app where I can join my friends' contest, play together, and talk trash. So stop what you're doing, download Sleeper now, play the Over-Under game, have fun, trash talk, make some money, hang with your friends. On your mobile phone, join our listener group, sleeper.com/lockedonbets or sleeper.com/lockedontoday. That's sleeper.com/lockedonbets, sleeper.com/lockedontoday, and they'll automatically match your first deposit up to $100. $100 matched up to $100 on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. I'm going to wrap it up with a little Monday Night Football, and obviously do a lot more Browns and Guardians again on Tuesday. Raiders-Chiefs tonight. I like the Raiders to cover. I know the Chiefs are at home. I know the Raiders have been a disappointment this year, but I don't think the Chiefs have been that great. They still don't seem 100% right if you've watched them play. I expect it to be a high-scoring, back-and-forth game. I think the Chiefs will pull it out and get to 4-1, and the Raiders will fall to 1-4. But I think the Raiders keep it close. I think it's like a 34-31 game, 31-28, something like that. 3-point win for the Chiefs. I'll take the Raiders +7 on the road in Monday Night Football. All right, make sure you follow me on Twitter as always. I don't think I played my intro montage today. It's all right. We'll live without it. Follow me on Twitter at Adam the Bull, Cameo Adam the Bull, and oddly enough, my website, adamthebull.com. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page. You can hear my podcast / see my podcast by subscribing to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show YouTube page and watch me and the other guys on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show every weekday, streaming live on YouTube from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. I'll be back on Tuesday on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Joining me, Jay Crawford, G. Bush, and Mike Polk. It's going to be a fun day. We'll have a Didi on with us, and I'll give my thoughts on the show on both the Browns and the Guardians with day 2, with the Guardians starting their next series tomorrow. And check out the Locked On podcast as well, the Locked On Browns podcast as well with G. Bush and Jeff Lloyd. We'll be doing post-game YouTube shows, Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show postgame for the Guardians against the Yankees, me, G. Bush, and Earl. And then I'll be back on the Browns postgame show this Sunday. Me, G. Bush, Mikey McNuggets, and Jeff Lloyd. See you for all that. Where else but right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull.